The day my wife's lawyer served me divorce papers, I was standing under fluorescent office lights, approving budget forecasts like nothing in my life was about to collapse. My phone buzzed once, then again. I ignored it. At 11:43 a.m., the receptionist called my extension. "Sir, there's a gentleman here asking for you by full legal name." That alone told me everything. I didn't rush. I straightened my tie, shut my laptop, and walked out calmly, because panic is loud and dignity is quiet. He was young, too young to understand what it meant to carry someone else's lies in a leather briefcase. His suit was crisp, his smile was professional, his eyes didn't know me, but his papers did. "Mr. Hale?" "Yes. You've been served." He slid the folder toward me like it was routine. Divorce petition, emergency custody request, asset freeze motion. Emergency. I almost laughed. My coworkers stared from behind glass walls, pretending not to watch the moment my marriage officially died at my workplace. My wife, Mara, knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted humiliation first, negotiation later. I signed nothing. I said nothing. I simply reached into my desk drawer. That drawer had been locked for 3 years. Inside was a cream-colored envelope. No return address, no label, just weight. The kind of weight that comes from truth waiting too long. I handed it to him. "This is for the court," I said calmly, "and for your client." He hesitated. "Sir, I'm not authorized." "You are," I interrupted. "You just don't know it yet." He took the envelope. And that's when my phone buzzed again. A text from Mara. "You embarrassed me by not answering. This will be over quickly if you cooperate." Cooperate. I looked up at the lawyer and smiled for the first time that day. "You should read that before tomorrow morning," I told him, "or your client will." He frowned. "What is this?" I leaned closer and lowered my voice. "It's the reason your emergency filing will collapse in open court." His confidence wavered, just for a second. After he left, I sat back down at my desk like nothing happened. My hands didn't shake, my heart didn't race, because this wasn't a surprise. It was a countdown reaching 0. Mara and I had been married for 11 years. 11 years of family-first speeches. 11 years of joint accounts I wasn't allowed to question. 11 years of her telling me I was paranoid when I asked where the money went. And 11 years of her mother whispering that I wasn't ambitious enough for their bloodline. The betrayal didn't start with divorce papers. It started the night I found out my name had been removed from our daughter's emergency contact list. It started when my own sister stopped returning my calls after helping Mara set up a trust. It started when my wife began sleeping peacefully while I stayed awake, listening. So I prepared, not with anger, with patience. The envelope didn't contain threats. It contained records, dates, signed affidavits, a recording my wife didn't know existed, and one document she assumed had been destroyed. At 6:07 p.m., my phone rang. Mara. I let it ring, because the court hadn't even opened yet, and her case was already bleeding. I thought that envelope would only change the divorce. I was wrong. By the next hearing, it would expose who my family really chose and who they were willing to destroy to protect her. The silence after serving papers is louder than the papers themselves. That night, the house felt unfamiliar, like I was already a guest in my own life. Mara didn't come home. She didn't need to. She had already moved emotionally months ago. I just hadn't been informed. I tucked our daughter in alone. She asked why Mommy wasn't there to read the story. I told her Mommy was busy. That lie tasted bitter, but it was softer than the truth. When the house finally slept, I opened my laptop and reviewed everything one last time. Not because I doubted it, but because preparation is how you stay calm when betrayal comes wearing family faces. The envelope I'd handed over wasn't emotional, it was surgical. 3 years earlier, I'd noticed irregular withdrawals from our joint account, always small enough to avoid flags, always explained away as family expenses. When I asked, Mara said her mother was helping manage investments. I was told to trust the process. So I did something quiet. I trusted documentation. I saved statements, screenshots, emails. I backed them up to a private cloud under a business alias. I never confronted her again, not because I forgave, but because I needed the truth to keep talking. Then came the recording, an accidental voicemail, or so she thought. Mara arguing with her lawyer weeks before filing about pushing for full custody by framing me as financially unstable. Her exact words still rang in my ears. He won't fight it. He always freezes when he's blindsided. She was wrong. The next morning, my sister called, not to ask how I was, but to warn me. "Mara's serious," she said. "You should just settle for your daughter." I asked her one question. "Did she tell you what was in the envelope?" Silence. Then a nervous laugh. "I don't know what you're talking about." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just my wife. This was a family alignment. My sister, my mother-in-law, even my own brother-in-law who'd borrowed money from our account under business pretexts. They weren't shocked by the divorce. They were shocked I wasn't panicking. At work, the whispers had started. HR sent a supportive email reminding me of company policy regarding personal matters. Mara knew where to apply pressure. She wanted me destabilized before court. But something strange happened instead. Her lawyer didn't respond. No counter-demand, no negotiation attempt, no threat, just silence. On the third day, I got an email notification from the court portal. Emergency custody motion withdrawn. Withdrawn. No explanation. That evening, Mara finally came home. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She stood in the doorway like someone entering a room they no longer owned. "What did you give my lawyer?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I kept washing the dishes, because control isn't about volume, it's about timing. "You should already know," I said. Her voice dropped. "You went through my private files?" "No," I replied calmly. "You left evidence everywhere and assumed love would erase it." She accused me of betrayal, of spying, of planning. I didn't deny it. I planned to protect myself. You planned to erase me. Her hands shook, just slightly. That's when she said the sentence that ended our marriage for good. "My family will never take your side." I turned to face her. "That's fine. The court doesn't need their side. It needs the truth." She walked out again that night, but this time she didn't sleep peacefully. because she knew the envelope wasn't just a defense, it was a mirror. The request for a private meeting came the following afternoon, not from Mara, from her lawyer. His email was short, clinical, stripped of confidence, requesting off-record discussion prior to preliminary hearing. No accusations, no demands, no leverage. That's when I knew the envelope had done exactly what it was meant to do. It shifted power without announcing itself. I agreed to meet at his office downtown, neutral ground, glass walls, too much light for lies to feel comfortable. He looked different in person this time. The crisp confidence had softened into caution. He gestured for me to sit, then closed the door himself. I reviewed the contents, he began carefully, and I need to clarify something before this proceeds any further. I said nothing. He flipped open a folder, not mine, his. The financial transfers, he continued, were routed through a family trust in your wife's mother's name. However, several disbursements were made using your wife's digital signature. That contradicts the affidavit she submitted. Contradicts was a polite word. It makes her filing inaccurate, he said, and potentially misleading to the court. Perjury adjacent, I offered. He didn't smile. There's also the recording, he added, which we were unaware existed. I didn't hide it, I just didn't announce it. He nodded slowly. Then he leaned back and asked the question I'd been waiting for. What do you want, Mr. Hale? The old version of me would have said peace, closure, fairness. But those are words people use when they're still hoping betrayal will apologize. I want my daughter protected, I said, and I want my name returned. He paused. Returned? You let her file that I'm financially unstable, I said evenly, that I abandoned the household, that I'm unreliable. He looked down at the papers again. Yes. You fix that, or the envelope becomes evidence instead of leverage. Silence. He cleared his throat. You realize this may expose members of your extended family. I do. And you're comfortable with that. I thought of my sister's voice on the phone, my mother-in-law's smirk when she spoke over me at dinners, the way they all assumed I'd stay quiet for the sake of harmony. I'm comfortable with the truth, I said. They should be too. When I left the office, my phone buzzed. Mara again. Why is my lawyer meeting you alone? I didn't reply. That evening, my mother-in-law showed up at the house unannounced. She didn't knock, she never had. She walked in like ownership was inherited. You've caused enough chaos, she said sharply. This is a family matter. No, I corrected her calmly. It's a legal one now. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward my daughter's room. You're embarrassing us, dragging private things into public record. You trained her to do that first. I just documented it. She scoffed. You think a judge will side with you? Blood matters. Not more than evidence, I said. She stepped closer. They'll regret this. People remember disloyalty. I looked her straight in the eyes. So do courts. She left without another word. 2 days later, a revised filing appeared. No mention of financial instability, no emergency custody, no character attacks. Just a standard divorce request. Mara had lost the narrative, but she hadn't accepted it, because the night before the hearing, my own brother called. Not to reconcile, to warn me. She's planning something, he said. She thinks you're hiding more. I almost smiled, because she was right, but not in the way she thought. The court hearing wasn't where the real battle would happen. It was what surfaced during testimony, one sentence from a family member that would force the judge to stop the proceedings entirely. Courtrooms don't feel dramatic when you're inside them. They feel quiet, clinical, almost bored. The judge skimmed files like grocery lists, Lawyers adjusted papers, lives reduced to folders and timestamps. Mara didn't look at me when she entered. She sat straight, composed, rehearsed, the version of her that knew how to perform innocence. Her lawyer looked restrained, careful with every word, like someone walking across thin ice. When the judge asked if both parties were ready to proceed, I said yes. Mara hesitated. That hesitation didn't go unnoticed. Her lawyer opened with a neutral summary. No attacks, no character assassination, just procedural language. That alone told me everything had changed. Then the judge turned to Mara. "Mrs. Hale," she said, "do you affirm that the financial disclosures submitted are accurate to the best of your knowledge?" "Yes," Mara answered, too quickly. The judge nodded. "Very well. Mr. Hale, your counsel may proceed." My attorney stood. "We request clarification regarding third-party financial involvement," he said, "specifically the family trust cited in the initial filing." Mara's lawyer stiffened. The judge looked at Mara again. "Were any assets moved or managed without your spouse's consent?" Mara swallowed. "My mother assisted with some arrangements." "Assisted?" the judge repeated. "Or controlled?" There it was. The sentence that changed everything didn't come from Mara. It came from her mother. She had insisted on being present for support. She sat behind Mara, arms folded, confidence carved into her posture. "She didn't control anything," her mother said sharply. "My daughter signed what I told her to." The courtroom froze. The judge slowly raised her head. "Excuse me?" she asked. Her lawyer turned in his chair, eyes wide. "You signed documents at your mother's direction?" the judge asked Mara. Mara's face drained of color. I trusted her," she said weakly. The judge held up her hand. "No further questions at this time," she said. Then to the clerk, "Please note the statement made by the third party." Then she did something unexpected. She closed the file. "I'm suspending these proceedings," she said, "pending review of potential undue influence and misrepresentation." The room buzzed. Mara turned to her mother, whispering furiously. Her mother's confidence cracked. My attorney leaned toward me. "That was not in the plan." "It wasn't supposed to be," I whispered back. The judge looked directly at Mara. "You requested emergency custody and asset control based on assertions of your spouse's instability," she said. "Those claims are now in question." She turned to me. "Mr. Hale, thank you for your patience." Patience. The word felt heavy. Outside the courtroom, Mara confronted me. "You set this up," she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "You just spoke without listening." Her lawyer pulled her aside, speaking urgently. Her mother avoided my eyes completely. As they walked away, my phone buzzed with a notification. Court-ordered financial audit initiated. That audit wouldn't just look at me. It would look at everyone. That night, my sister called again. This time, she was crying. "They're blaming each other. Mom's furious. Mara's saying she was manipulated." I said nothing, because this wasn't about blame anymore. It was about exposure. I thought the audit would end things quietly. I didn't know it would uncover a transfer tied to my daughter's name, one document that would force the court to reconsider custody entirely. Audits don't move fast. They move deep. For weeks, nothing happened on the surface. No calls, no court dates, no dramatic confrontations. Just silence, stretched thin with anxiety. Mara tried to be civil. She texted about schedules, about groceries, about school pickups. She avoided anything legal, as if pretending it didn't exist might soften what was coming. Then one afternoon, my attorney called. "You need to sit down," he said. I already was. "The audit flagged an account," he continued, "a custodial savings account. Your daughter is listed as the beneficiary." I closed my eyes. That account was supposed to be sacred. College, emergency, a future untouched by adult greed. "It was opened 3 years ago," he said. "Withdrawals were made without your signature." "How much?" I asked. He paused. "Enough to matter." The room felt smaller. The betrayal hit differently this time, not because of money, but because of intent. They hadn't just taken from me, they'd taken from her. When the findings were submitted, the court moved fast. An emergency hearing was scheduled, not at Mara's request, at the judge's. Mara arrived pale, unsteady. Her lawyer barely spoke to her. Her mother wasn't there. The judge didn't waste time. "This court is deeply concerned," she said. "A minor's protected account was accessed without full parental consent." She looked directly at Mara. "Do you deny authorizing these withdrawals?" Mara shook her head slowly. "No." "Were the funds used for the child's benefit?" Silence. Then, quietly, "No." That was it. No theatrics, no shouting, just truth landing exactly where it was meant to. Temporary custody was granted to me. Full financial oversight, too. Mara didn't cry. She looked relieved, like someone who'd been carrying a lie too heavy to keep holding. Outside the courtroom, she spoke for the first time honestly. "You didn't think they'd go that far," she said. "You let them, and you stayed quiet." She nodded. "I thought keeping the family together mattered more." "It does. That's why I stopped lying." That night, my daughter slept in my bed, holding my hand. I stared at the ceiling, realizing something important. Winning didn't feel like victory. It felt like responsibility. But the story wasn't over, because audits don't stop at one account. They follow patterns, and those patterns were leading somewhere much bigger. I believed custody would be the final chapter. I didn't know the audit would uncover a second envelope, one I never created, that would force my wife to choose between her mother and the truth. The second envelope arrived without warning. It wasn't handed to a lawyer or served at work. It was mailed directly to the court, anonymously, according to the clerk. When my attorney called me in, I assumed it was routine, another audit update, another spreadsheet of damage already done. Instead, he slid a thin folder across the table. "This didn't come from you," he said. I knew that immediately. The paper was different, older, the tone colder. Inside were notarized copies of documents I'd never seen, loan guarantees, property liens, and a private agreement between Mara's mother and an outside investor. My name was on none of them. Mara's name was on all of them. So was her mother's. "This suggests your wife was pressured into signing collateral agreements using marital assets as leverage," my attorney said, "without disclosure. In plain language, she'd been used." The next hearing felt different. Not tense, heavy. Mara looked exhausted. Her confidence was gone. Her mother finally sat in the back row again, but this time she didn't look powerful. She looked cornered. The judge addressed the anonymous submission carefully. This court does not accept unsigned accusations lightly, she said. However, these documents align with audit findings. She turned to Mara. Mrs. Hale, were you aware these agreements exposed your marital assets? Mara shook her head. I was told they were temporary, that it was for the family. For whose family? The judge asked. Mara didn't answer. Her mother stood up. I advised her, she said firmly. She consented. The judge's voice hardened. Did you advise her as legal counsel? No. As a fiduciary? No. As someone with authority over her finances? Her mother hesitated. I'm her mother. The judge leaned forward. That does not grant financial immunity. Silence followed, thick and final. The judge ruled swiftly. Mara was granted independent financial protection from third-party influence. A formal restriction was placed on her mother's involvement in any matters related to our daughter or shared assets. Then, the judge said something I didn't expect. Mr. Hale, she said, this court recognizes restraint when it sees it. Restraint. I hadn't gone for revenge. I hadn't leaked. I hadn't humiliated. I'd simply stopped covering for lies. Outside the courtroom, Mara approached me slowly. I didn't send the envelope, she said. I know, I replied. She looked down. She did, my mother. That hurt more than anything else, because it meant the final betrayal wasn't between husband and wife, it was between parent and child. I don't know who I am without her telling me, Mara said quietly. You'll learn, the hard way, like I did. She nodded. For the first time, we weren't enemies. We were survivors of the same manipulation, just at different stages. But one question remained. Why now? Why would her mother expose herself? The answer came a week later, buried in another audit update. The investor was under investigation, and someone was trying to shift blame. I thought the truth had finally surfaced. I didn't realize the final hearing would end with a choice, one that would decide whether my family could ever speak to each other again. The final hearing wasn't loud. There were no raised voices, no dramatic accusations, just people sitting in the aftermath of choices they could no longer undo. Mara sat beside her attorney, smaller somehow, less rehearsed, more human. Her mother sat alone this time, separated by more than just a row of benches. No whispers, no guidance, no control. The judge began by summarizing the case. Financial manipulation, misrepresentation, and undue influence. Then she turned to me. Mr. Hale, she said, the court acknowledges that additional evidence could be introduced, evidence that may have broader consequences for extended parties. She paused. But this court also recognizes your discretion. Everyone knew what she meant. The original envelope, the second, the trails that could unravel more than a marriage. I could push. I could expose everything. I could burn every bridge and call it justice. Instead, I stood. My priority is my daughter, I said, and her ability to grow up without watching her family destroy itself in court. Mara looked up sharply. Her mother didn't. The judge nodded slowly. Very well, she said. The court will finalize custody and financial protections accordingly. Custody remained with me. Shared visitation approved. Supervised at first. Financial separation enforced. No third-party involvement permitted. It was clean, clinical, and merciful. Outside the courtroom, Mara stopped me. "Why didn't you finish it?" she asked. "You could have ended her." I looked at our daughter waiting by the window, coloring quietly. "Because I don't want her to learn that power means humiliation," I said. "I want her to learn that truth doesn't need to scream." Mara cried then, not dramatically, just quietly. Her mother walked past us without a word. No apology, no confrontation, just absence. That was her consequence. Months later, life stabilized. The house felt lighter, honest, safer. Mara and I learned how to co-parent without rewriting history. Some days were awkward, some days were peaceful, all days were real. The envelope that destroyed her case still sits in my desk, unopened now, because the most important document was never the evidence. It was the boundary. I didn't win by destroying her in court. I won by refusing to let betrayal decide who I became. And sometimes, the strongest revenge is choosing not to use it.